Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the slow, dusty rhythm of a trucker's life, hauling produce through California's Central Valley. Picture yourself behind the wheel of a big rig, the horizon glowing pink over endless rows of almond trees, the air thick with the scent of earth and diesel. You're not just driving, you're carrying the lifeblood of America's salad bowl. Crates of lettuce and strawberries stacked high in your trailer. It's a grind most folks romanticize, but let's be real. You probably won't survive this week without a strong coffee addiction and a knack for dodging boredom. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and the time where you are. I love picturing where you're all drifting off tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It's 4:45 a.m. and you're parked at a truck stop just outside Fresno, the heart of the Central Valley. The sky is barely cracking open, a faint orange smear above the Sierra Nevada. Your rig, a beat-up but loyal Peterbilt, hums as you check the manifest. 40,000 pounds of mixed produce lettuce, maybe some early peaches bound for markets up and down Highway 99. You stretch your legs, boots crunching on gravel, and the cool morning air hits your face like a damp towel. The valley's already alive, forklifts beeping in the distance, the faint buzz of irrigation systems watering fields that stretch for miles. You're not alone. Other truckers, shadowy figures in flannel, sip coffee from styrofoam cups, swapping stories about bad loads and worse weather. You climb into the cab, the vinyl seat creaking under your weight. The dashboard glows with a mess of gas, and your thermos filled with gas station coffee that tastes like burnt ambition sits in the Q folder. You fire up the engine, and the low rumble vibrates through your bones. This is your world for the next week. Long hours, endless roads, and the kind of solitude that makes you talk to your truck like it's an old friend. You pull out of the lot, tires hissing on asphalt, and head toward the depot where your load's waiting. The valley's history whispers around you. Back in the 1930s, this region exploded with agriculture. Thanks to the Central Valley Project, a massive federal push to irrigate these dry plains. Canals and dams turned desert into farmland, making California the top produce supplier in the US. A fact you'll appreciate when you're hauling 20 tons of carrots. But there's a quirkier side to this place. Locals still talk about the Fresno night stick-like creature supposedly spotted on grainy security footage in the 2000s. Scuttling through fields at night, truckers swear they've seen it, or something like it, on lonely stretches of road. Historians still argue whether it's a hoax, a misidentified animal, or just sleep-deprived drivers seeing things in the fog. You chuckle, picturing yourself spotting a lanky shadow between the peach trees. Yeah, right. Your biggest worry is hitting your delivery window, not chasing cryptids. The road stretches ahead, flat and straight, lined with billboards for fruit stands and tractor dealers. You flick on the CB radio, catching snippets of chatter truckers griping about way stations or joking about the best diner pancakes. It's a language of its own, full of 10-4 south and bear traps. You settle in, the engines drone a steady lullaby. The valley's waking up, and you're already rolling, chasing the sunrise toward your first stop. A week of this lies ahead: long hauls, odd encounters, and the quiet hum of a life most folks never see. You adjust your cap, sip that awful coffee, and keep driving, the world shrinking to the road and the weight of your load. You're rolling into Fresno's main produce depot, a sprawling maze of warehouses where the Central Valley's heartbeat thumps loudest. The sun's barely up, painting the sky a soft gold, but this place is already a circus. Forklifts dart like oversized bees, stacking crates of lettuce and avocados, while workers shout over the hum of refrigeration units. You ease your rig into a loading bay, the air thick with the sweet temps of overripe fruit and diesel fumes. Your boots hit the concrete, and you instantly dodging a guy in a high-waist vest, waving a clipboard like it's a battle flag. This is where your load gets real: 40,000 pounds of produce, destined for markets from Modesto to Bakersfield, and it's on you to make sure every crate's secure. You check the manifest again, squinting at the fine print. Lettuce from Salinas, carrots from Kern County, maybe some strawberries if you're lucky. The depot's chaos is oddly soothing, a rhythm you've learned to lean into. You nod at a fellow trucker, a grizzled guy named Carl who's hauling tomatoes and smells like he slept in his cab. Rough night, you ask. He grumbles something about a flat tire near Visalia and shuffles off. You'd laugh, but you've been there stuck on his shoulder at 2 a.m., cursing the universe. The depot's a living thing, pulsing with the labor that keeps America fed. In the 1940s, the Central Valley's ag boom, fueled by post-war demand and irrigation projects, turned Fresno into a produce powerhouse. Today, it's still the epicenter, shipping out billions in crops yearly. There's a weirder side to this place though. Old-timers swear the depot's haunted by Boxcar Benny, a hobo from the Great Depression who supposedly hid in railcars full of peaches and never made it out. Drivers claim they hear his footsteps soft, shuffling near the loading docks at dawn. Historians still argue whether Benny was real or just a tall tale born from too many late-night coffee runs. You glance at the shadowy corner of the warehouse, half expecting to see a ghostly figure stacking crates. Nope, just another forklift buzzing by. You climb back into the cab, the seat warm from the morning sun, the loads secured, straps tight, reefer unit humming to keep the produce crisp. You're hauling for a small market chain today. Independent folks who still pay on time are rarity. The CB crackles with chatter about a way station on Highway 99, so you plot a mental detour. The valley's flat expanse stretches outside your windshield, orchards and fields blurring into a green-brown haze. You sip your coffee, now cold and tasting like regret, and ease onto the road. The depot fades in your mirrors, but its energy lingers. The grind, the gossip, the faint chance of spotting Benny's ghost. The rhythm of the haul settles in. You're not just driving, you're carrying a piece of the valley's soul. Every crate's a story. Farmers up before dawn, workers sorting fruit in the heat. You pass a roadside stand selling cherries, and for a second you're tempted to stop. But time's ticking, and you've got miles to cover. The sun climbs higher, baking the cab, and you'll crank the AC, laughing at the thought of Carl wrestling that tire in the dark. Truckers are a breed apart, stubborn as the dirt under these fields. You adjust your sunglasses, tune the radio to some twangy country, and let the road pull you forward, deeper into the valley's endless sprawl. You're cruising down Highway 99, the spine of California's Central Valley, your rig humming like a tired but faithful dog. The road stretches flat and endless, flanked by orchards heavy with peaches and almonds, their leaves glinting in the late morning sun. Your trailers loaded with produce, lettuce, carrots, a few crates of strawberries, and the reefer unit drones, keeping everything crisp. The cab smelt faintly of coffee and sun-warmed vinyl, and you've got the windows cracked, letting in a breeze that carries the dusty scent of earth. This highway's a trucker's lifeline, connecting Fresno to Modesto and beyond, but it's also a monotony machine, lulling you into a trance. You shake your head, chuckling at the thought of nodding off and waking up in a ditch with a raccoon as your co-pilot. Highway 99's got history. Built in the 1920s, it was the main north-south artery before Interstate 5 stole its thunder, carrying Dust Bowl migrants west in search of work. Those Okies, as Steinbeck wrote about in The Grapes of Wrath, rolled through here in rickety trucks, dreaming of picking fruit instead of hauling it like you. Now, it's a trucker's road, lined with way stations and billboards for cheap tacos. You read decoding CB slang to stay awake. Truckers calling out, alligator for tire scraps or chicken coop for a way station. Days menos cuatro, good buddy, you mutter, mimicking the drawl, though nobody's listening. The chatter's a lifeline, a reminder you're not alone out here, even if it feels like you're driving to the edge of the world. There's a quirky tale floating around about this stretch. Locals claim a phantom rig haunts 99 near Madera, a ghostly semi that appears in your mirrors, then vanishes. Drivers swear it's the ghost of a trucker who spun out in the 70s, chasing a tight deadline. Historians still argue whether it's a myth or just headlights playing tricks in the valley. Haze, you glance at your side mirror half expecting to see a spectral trailer. Nothing but dust and a pickup tailgating you. Nice try, ghost. The road hums under your tires, and you pass a sign for a fruit stand. It's hand-painted letters promising fresh peach. You're tempted, but your schedule's tighter than a jar lid. The CB crackles with a joke about a trucker who tried to park his rig in a porta potty. You snort, nearly spilling your coffee. The valley is a patchwork of fields and small towns, each with a story. You spot a faded mural on a barn, depicting a tractor and a smiling farmer. It's quaint, but you know the truth. This land's a grind, for farmers and truckers alike. You adjust your cap, sip that now lukewarm coffee, and keep rolling. Modesto's your next stop, But for now, it's just you, the highway, and the faint echo of CB voices, weaving a sleepy spell as the orchards blurred by. You pull off Highway 99 into a gravel lot, tires crunching, and park your rig beside a diner that looks like it's been here since Eisenhower was president. The sign reads, Valley View, though the only view is a dusty almond orchard and a rusted tractor. It's mid-afternoon, and the sun's baking the Central Valley, turning your cab into a sauna. You step out, stretching your back, the air heavy with the scent of fried onions and diesel. This is one of those quirky roadside stops, the kind truckers love for its greasy comfort and weird charm. The diner's got faded red booths, a jukebox that probably hasn't worked since 1987, and a waitress named Barb who calls you hun like she means it. You slide into a booth, the vinyl squeaking, and order a burger and coffee, knowing full well it'll taste like regret by mile marker 200. These diners are the valley's lifeblood, feeding truckers and farmhands since the 1950s when the Central Valley SAG boom turned Highway 99 into a trucking hub. Back then, places like this were social clubs for drivers, hauling fruit to Los Angeles or San Francisco, swapping stories over bottomless coffee. You glance at the counter, where a trucker's arguing with Barb about the best route to Sacramento. She's heard it all before, rolling her eyes but tossing in a free refill. You smirk, remembering Carl from the Fresno Depot bit. He'd have a tall tale about this place. The diner's got its own legend. Locals say a jukebox tune plays at midnight, even though the thing's unplugged. Some call it the ghost of a trucker who loved Johnny Cash too much to leave. Historians still argue whether it's a prank or just bad wiring, but you're not sticking around past dusk to find out. You take a bite of the burger greasy the walls are plastered with old photos, farmers, trucks, a faded shot of the diner's opening day in 1962. A quirky tidbit scratched into your table. Big Rig Bob was here, 1974. You wonder if Bob's still out there, hauling or retired, maybe sipping coffee in another dive like this. The CB in your rig crackles faintly through the open window, a voice warning about a speed trap near. You make a mental note, chuckling at the thought of outsmarting a cop with a radar gun. Truckers are like pirates, always one step ahead of the law, at least pretending to be. Barb drops off a slice of pie you didn't order, winking. On the house, hun, don't fall asleep out there. You grin, knowing she's the pie's apple, warm, and tastes like someone's grandma spent all day on it. You savor it, watching dust swirl in the lot outside. The valley's quiet now, the heat slowing everything to a crawl. You're halfway through your week, and this stop feels like a pause button, a moment to breathe before the road calls again. You leave a tip, nod at Barb, and head back to your rig. The diner's neon sign flickering in your mirrors as you pull out, ready for the next stretch of Highway 99. You're back on the road, the night wrapping around your rig like a heavy blanket, stars speckling the Central Valley sky. Highway 99 hums under your tires, a quiet stretch between Fresno and Modesto, and the world feels small, just you, the glow of your dashboard, and the CB radio crackling with life. The reefer unit drones, keeping your load of lettuce and strawberries cool, but it's the voices on the CB that keep you awake. Truckers trade stories in a slow, drawling cadence, their words weaving through static like a campfire tale. Heard about the coyote that chased a rig near Bakersfield? One guy asks, and you smirk, picturing a scrappy animal, eyeballing a semi. You flick the mic, tossing in a 10-4 to feel part of the invisible tribe out here, though you're too tired to add your own story. The CB's been a trucker's lifeline since the 1970s, when citizens' band radios exploded during the oil crisis, letting drivers dodge fuel shortages and speed traps. It's more than tickets or culture, a way to share warnings, jokes, or just the sound of another voice when the road feels endless. You lean back, the seat creaking, and catch a snippet about a haunted way station near The story's wild, a scale that adds ghost weight. 2 trucks at midnight, freaking out newbies. Historians still argue whether it's drivers pranking each other or something weirder, like faulty equipment from the 80s. You glance at your gauges, half expecting a phantom pound to show up. Nope, just 40,000 pounds of produce, same as always. The night air seeps through the cracked window, cool and earthy, smelling of irrigated fields. You pass a sign from Madeira, its letters barely lit, and remember that diner pie from earlier, sweet enough to make you forgive the valley's dust. A voice on the CB jokes about a trucker who tried to haul moonlight to save fuel. You chuckle, shaking your head. The guy's got imagination. You'll give him that. The road's quiet now, save for the occasional car zipping by, headlights cutting through the dark. You sip your coffee, cold as a forgotten promise, and adjust your cap. The stars feel close, like you could reach out and grab one. But you're grounded by the weight of your load and the rhythm of the highway. Another voice crackles through, warning about fog up ahead. You make a mental note, picturing the valley's infamous tule fog, thick as soup, waiting to swallow you whole. The CB's a chorus of strangers, each with a hand-alone wolf. Big Mama, road scholar, you're just freight, no flair, but it suits you. The stories keep coming. A driver who swears he saw a UFO over Tuileries, another griping about a diner's burnt hat. You laugh softly, the sound swallowed by the cab. The valley's alive at night, not with noise, but with whisper stories, static, the hum of your rig. You're halfway to Modesto, the road stretching into the dark, and the CB's soft buzz lulls you. A sleepy thread tying you to the truckers out there, rolling through the same endless night. You're rolling south, toward Bakersfield, the Central Valley's gritty southern edge, where the air smells of oil and sun-baked dirt. Highway 99 dips and weaves, flanked by pump jacks, nodding like sleepy dinosaurs against the dawn's pale glow. Your rig's loaded with produce, lettuce and strawberries, still crisp in the reef-rand. The engine's slow rumble keeps you company as you take a dusty shortcut off the main drag. These backroads, barely 2 lanes wide, snake through fields and past rusted oil, offering a quicker shot to your next drop but demanding focus. You grip the wheel, dodging a pothole, and mutter, "Nice try, road." You chuckle, imagining explaining a pothole to Barb back at the Valley View. She'd probably say, "S got more personality than most truckers." Bakersfield's history is tied to oil as much as agriculture. In the early 1900s, the Kern County oilfields turned this dusty town into a boomtown, pumping out millions of barrels and drawing roughnecks who'd rival any trucker for grit. Those old wells still dot the landscape, their creaks echoing the valley's past. But there's a quirkier tale here. Drivers swear by the Bakersfield Banshee, a ghostly wail heard near abandoned oil rigs at night, said to be a worker lost in a 1920s blowout. Historians still argue whether it's wind through old pipes or something. You glance at the dark fields, half expecting a spectral scream. Just crickets, though louder than your CB tonight. The shortcut's a gamble, narrow roads, no shoulder, and the occasional jackrabbit darting across make your palms sweat. You pass a faded sign for Kern County Oil Museum, a nod to the black gold that built this place. The CB's quiet now, most drivers bunked down. But you remember that haunted way station story from last night makes you wonder what else this valley hides. You sip your coffee, now a cold sludge, and laugh at yourself for jumping at shadows. The road's lined with tumbleweeds, rolling like they're late for a delivery too. You spot an old oil derrick, silhouetted against the sky, and imagine it creaking out a banshee wail. Nope, just your tires humming. You're hauling for a market in Bakersfield today. A mom-and-pop outfit that pays on time but haggles like it's an Olympic sport. The shortcut saves you an hour, but it's a lonely stretch, just you and the ghosts of oilmen past. You pass a roadside stand, shuttered for the night, its sign promising fresh figs. You're tempted to grab some later, maybe trade them for a better story than that banshee nonsense. The valley's waking up, a faint pink glow spreading over the fields. You adjust your cap, crank the AC, and keep rolling. The shortcut merging back to 99. Bakersfield's close. It's oil fields and produce markets waiting, and you're just another trucker carrying the valley's heartbeat through the dawn. You're back on Highway 99, rolling north from Bakersfield under a sky turning bruised purple with dusk. Your rig's loaded with the new haul crates of grapes, their sweet, earthy scents sneaking through the trailer's vents, despite the reefer's hum. The Central Valley's vineyards stretch around you, rows of gnarled vines heavy with clusters, glowing faintly in the fading light. You're headed to a processing plant near the heart of California's wine country, where these grapes will become somebody's fancy Cabernet. Let's be honest, a $5 bottle of red you'd grab at a gas station. The road's quiet tonight, just the soft thrum of your tires and the occasional flicker of a passing car's headlights. You adjust your cap, sip the dregs of that coffee still terrible, like it's plotting revenge from Fresno, and Let the valley's rhythm pull you along. You're halfway through this week, and the grapes in your trailer feel like a small piece of history, heavier than their weight suggests. The Central Valley's wine legacy goes back to the 19th century, when Spanish missionaries planted the first vines to make sacramental wine. By the 1880s, settlers realized this soil, baked by sun and fed by rivers, was perfect for grapes, turning places like Lodi into viticulture hubs. Today, California produces about 80% of U.S. wine, and you're hauling a chunk of that legacy right now. Thompson Seedless and Zinfandel, stacked neatly in your trailer. You pictured the vineyards you passed earlier, workers clipping grapes under the brutal noon sun, and feel a twinge of respect. Your job's tough, but at least you've got a C and a seat that doesn't feel like a medieval torture device. You chuckle, imagining trying to explain to Barb at the Valley View why grape hauling feels like carrying liquid gold. She'd probably just slide you another slice of pie and call you dramatic. There's a quirkier story tied to these vines, one you overheard on the CB last night. Truckers whisper about the Lodi wine, which a spectral figure said to wander vineyards at twilight, blessing or cursing crops depending on her mood. Some say she's the ghost of a 1920s winemaker who poisoned a bad batch and vanished. Others think it's just bats flapping through the vines, spooking tired drivers. Historians still argue whether she's a folktale born from Prohibition era, bootlegging, or something older, tied to the valley's indigenous myths. You glanced at the darkening fields, half expecting a shadowy figure to drift between the rows. Nope, just a plastic bag caught on a fence, fluttering like it's auditioning for a ghost role. You laugh softly, shaking your head. Too much CB chatter, not enough sleep. The road stretches ahead. Highway 99 cutting through the valley like a worn-out ribbon. You pass a sign for Lodi, its letters glowing faintly under your headlights. The CB's alive tonight, crackling with voices swapping tips about a new diner in Stockton or joking about a trucker who tried to ferment his own diesel for laughs. You smirk, remembering that Bakersfield Banshee tale from last night. Maybe the Valley S, just full of ghosts looking for a ride. You flick the mic, tossing in a 10-4, keep it shiny side up, though you're not sure anyone's listening. The grapes in your trailer feel alive, their weight a quiet reminder of the land's work. You've hauled heavier loads, lumber, steel, but there's something about produce, especially grapes, that feels personal, like you're carrying a farmer's year of sweat. You pass a vineyard, its rows stretching into the dark, and think about the wine these grapes will become. Maybe a bottle sipped at a fancy dinner, maybe one cracked open at a truck stop by a driver like you, toasting another long haul. The valley's history runs deep. Missionaries, settlers, now corporations, all betting on this dirt to turn sun into flavor. You're no wine snob, but you get it. Every crate's a story, from the vine to the bottle. You sip your coffee again, wincing at its bitterness, and mutter, should have grabbed some of those figs back in Bakersfield. The thought makes you grin. Imagine pulling over to barter fruit with a roadside vendor like some old-time trader. The CB crackles again, a voice warning about a speed trap near Mont. You ease off the gas, thanking the invisible trucker network that's got your back. The night's settling in, cool air slipping through the cracked window, carrying the faint sweetness of grapes. You pass a billboard for a wine festival, its colors faded but promising Lodi's finest. You wonder if the wine whichever shows up to those, swirling a glass of The idea makes you chuckle, the sound swallowed by the cab's hum. Your rig's headlights carve a path through the dark, illuminating dust motes and the occasional moth. You're tired, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that comes from days on the road, but the grapes keep you grounded. They're fragile, needy, demanding a steady hand and a cool trailer. You check the refer's temp, gauge perfect, 35 degrees, and feel a small surge of pride. You're not just a driver, you're a keeper of the valley's pulse. The road curves slightly, and you spot a rest area ahead. It's sodium, lights buzzing like a beacon. You're tempted to pull over, stretch your legs, maybe eavesdrop on more CB stories, but Lodi's calling. The grapes need to be there by morning, and you've got a reputation for being on time. You think back to that Fresno depot, the chaos of forklifts, and Carl's grumbling about his flat tire. Feels like a lifetime ago, though it's only been a couple days. The valley's like that, stretching time, making every mile a story. You adjust your seat, the vinyl creaking, and keep driving. The vineyards fading into the night. The CB hums softly, a trucker joking about a grape escape gone wrong. You laugh, the sound blending with the engine's drone. and let the road carry you toward Lodi, the grapes riding steady behind you. You're back on Highway 99, rolling north from Bakersfield under a sky turning bruised purple with dusk. Your rig's loaded with the new haul crates of grapes, their sweet, earthy scents sneaking through the trailer's vents, despite the reefer's hum. The Central Valley's vineyards stretch around you, rows of gnarled vines heavy with clusters, glowing faintly in the fading light. You're headed to a processing plant near the heart of California's wine country, where these grapes will become somebody's fancy Cabernet. Let's be honest, a $5 bottle of red you'd grab at a gas station. The road's quiet tonight, just the soft thrum of your tires and the occasional flicker of a passing car's headlights. You adjust your cap, sip the dregs of that coffee still terrible, like it's plotting revenge from Fresno, and let the valley's rhythm pull you along. You're halfway through this week, and the grapes in your trailer feel like a small piece of history, heavier than their weight suggests. The Central Valley's wine legacy goes back to the 19th century, when Spanish missionaries planted the first vines to make sacramental wine. By the 1880s, settlers realized this soil, baked by sun and fed by rivers, was perfect for grapes, turning places like Lodi into viticulture hubs. Today, California produces about 80% of U.S. wine, and you're holding a chunk of that legacy right now. Thompson, Seedless and Zinfandel, stacked neatly in your trailer. You pictured the vineyards you passed earlier, workers clipping grapes under the brutal noon sun, and feel a twinge of respect. Your job's tough, but at least you've got a C and a seat that docent tea feel like a medieval torture device. You chuckle, imagining trying to explain to Barb at the Valley View why grape hauling feels like carrying liquid gold. She'd probably just slide you another slice of pie and call you dramatic. There's a quirkier story tied to these vines, one you overheard on the CB last night. Truckers whisper about the Lodi wine, which a spectral figure said to wander vineyards at twilight, blessing or cursing crops depending on her mood. Some say she's the ghost of a 1920s winemaker who poisoned a bad batch and vanished. Others think it's just bats flapping through the vines, spooking tired drivers. Historians still argue whether she's a folktale born from Prohibition era, bootlegging, or something older, tied to the valley's indigenous myths. You glanced at the darkening fields, half expecting a shadowy figure to drift between the rows. Nope. Just a plastic bag caught on a fence, fluttering like it's auditioning for a ghost role. You laugh softly, shaking your head. Too much CB chatter, not enough sleep. The road stretches ahead, Highway 99 cutting through the valley like a worn-out ribbon. You pass a sign for Lodi, its letters glowing faintly under your headlights. The CB's alive tonight, crackling with voices swapping tips about a new diner in Stockton or joking about a trucker who tried to ferment his own diesel for laughs. You smirk, remembering that Bakersfield banshee tale from last night. Maybe the Valley S, just full of ghosts looking for a ride. You flick the mic, tossing in a 10-4, keep it shiny side up, though you're not sure anyone's listening. The grapes in your trailer feel alive, their weight a quiet reminder of the land's work. You've hauled heavier loads, lumber, steel, but there's something about produce, especially grapes, that feels personal, like you're carrying a farmer's year of sweat. You pass a vineyard, its rows stretching into the dark, and think about the wine these grapes will become. Maybe a bottle sipped at a fancy dinner, maybe one cracked open at a truck stop by a driver like you, toasting another long haul. The valley's history runs deep. Missionaries, settlers, now corporations, all betting on this dirt to turn sun into flavor. You're no wine snob, but you get it. Every crate's a story, from the vine to the bottle. You sip your coffee again, wincing at its bitterness, and mutter, should have grabbed some of those figs back in Bakersfield. The thought makes you grin. Imagine pulling over to barter fruit with a roadside vendor like some old-time trader. The CB crackles again, a voice warning about a speed trap near Mont. You ease off the gas, thanking the invisible trucker network that's got your back. The night's settling in, cool air slipping through the cracked window, carrying the faint sweetness of grapes. You pass a billboard for a wine festival, its colors faded but promising Lodi's finest. You wonder if the wine whichever shows up to those, swirling a glass of milk. The idea makes you chuckle, the sound swallowed by the cab's hum. Your rig's headlights carve a path through the dark, illuminating dust motes and the occasional moth. You're tired, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that comes from days on the road, but the grapes keep you grounded. They're fragile, needy, demanding a steady hand and a cool trailer. You check the refer's temp, gauge per fact, 35 degrees and feel a small surge of pride. You're not just a driver, you're a keeper of the valley's pulse. The road curves slightly, and you spot a rest area ahead. It's sodium, lights buzzing like a beacon. You're tempted to pull over, stretch your legs, maybe eavesdrop on more CB stories. But Lodi's calling. The grapes need to be there by morning, and you've got a reputation for being on time. You think back to that Fresno depot, the chaos of forklifts, and Carl's grumbling about his flat tire. Feels like a lifetime ago, though it's only been a couple days. The valley's like that, stretching time, making every mile a story. You adjust your seat, the vinyl creaking, and keep driving. The vineyards fading into the night. The CB hums softly, a trucker joking about a grape escape gone wrong. You laugh, the sound blending with the engine's drone, and let the road carry you toward Lodi, the grapes riding steady behind you. You're parked at a rest stop just south of Modesto, the Central Valley's night air cool and heavy with the scent of damp grass and diesel. Your rig's idling, the reefer humming to keep those grapes fresh for the Lodi drop. But you've got a moment to breathe. The rest stops are lonely outpost, 2 picnic tables, a flickering vending machine, and a bathroom that looks like it's seen better days. Probably around 1973, you stretch your legs, boots crunching on gravel, and lean against your Peterbilt. Its chrome glinting under a buzzing sodium light. The fog from earlier's gone, leaving a clear sky speckled with stars, but the valley's quiet feels heavier now, like it's holding secrets. You sip your coffee cold as a broken promise and chuckle, thinking you detraded for Barb Spy from that valley view in a heartbeat. Out here, rest stops are your church, your confessional, your 5-minute escape from the road's endless pull. Rest stops like this one, Dots Highway 99, built in the 1960s to keep truckers sane during the valley's AG boom. When produce hauls turned the region into America's breadbasket, they're more than pit stops. They're where you swap stories, nap, or just stare at the horizon, wondering why you picked a job that's 90% staring at asphalt. You wander to the vending machine, fishing for quarters, and grab a bag of chips that taste like cardboard and regret. A fellow trucker, a wiry guy with a cowboy hat, nods from his rig nearby. "Rough haul?" he asks, voice raspy. He shrugged, muttering about the fog near Monteca, and he laughs, saying he once got stuck in it for 3 hours, swearing he heard the mist maidens giggle. You smirk here. Right, probably just his radio. There's a stranger tale tied to this rest stop, whispered among drivers late at night. They call it the Modesto Chimi Warp, claiming clocks here run slow, like the valley's bending time itself. Some say it's because of an old Miwok burial ground nearby, disturbed when the highway was built. Others blame cheap batteries and truckers' watches. Historians still argue whether it is a local legend or just the monotony making minutes feel like hours. You check your phone to 17 a.m., right on schedule, and laugh, tossing the chip bag in a trash can that has seen more action than a Vegas slot machine. No time warps here, just you and a long night ahead. You climb back into the cab, the seat creaking like an old friend, and flip on the CB. It's quiet, save for a faint voice griping about a flat tire near Tellerapo guy. Sounds like Carl's bad luck from the Fresno depot's catching. You lean back, the stars visible through your windshield, and think about the grapes in your trailer. They're bound for wine, maybe a fancy label or some jug red, but right now, they're your responsibility, a piece of the valley's soul riding with you. The rest stops, vending machine hums, a lone cricket chirping nearby, and you feel the weight of the week miles, fog, CB stories piling up like dust on your dashboard. You adjust your cap, take a final sip of that awful coffee, and let the engine's rumble settle your nerves. The valley's got a rhythm, even at a place like this. You spot a faded sign by the picnic tables, barely legible, rest area dedicated 1965. It's a reminder of the truckers who've parked here before you, hauling fruit, dreams, or just time. You think about that Lodi wine, which tale maybe she's out there, blessing your grapes for a good vintage. The thought makes you grin, picturing her sipping Merlot in a spectral truck stop. The CB crackles again, a trucker, joking about a vending machine gourmet, who tried to live off stale chips for a week. You laugh softly, the sound swallowed by the cab, and check your manifest. Lodi's close, but this rest stops a pause, a moment to reset before the next push. You glance at the stars one last time, their lights steady, and fire up the rig, ready to roll back into the valley's endless night. You're pulling into Modesto's bustling produce market just as the sun cracks the horizon, painting the Central Valley in shades of gold and pink. Your rig's loaded with those Lodi-bound grapes, their faint sweetness still lingering in the cab like a memory of last night's fog. The market's a hive of activity, forklifts buzzing, workers shouting in Spanish and English, crates of tomatoes and peaches stacked high under canvas awnings. You ease your Peterbilt into a loading zone, tires crunching on asphalt littered with stray lettuce leaves. The air's thick with the smell of ripe fruit and exhaust, a chaotic symphony that feels like home after days on Highway 99. You step out, stretching your back, and dodge a kid pushing a cart of melons, nearly clipping your boots. "Nice driving, champ," you mutter, chuckling at the thought of a melon cart outrunning your rig. You're here to drop a partial load before heading to Lodi, and the energy's a jolt after the quiet of that Modesto rest stop. Modesto's market is a cornerstone of the valley's ag machine, part of a network that's been feeding California since the early 1900s. The 1913 establishment of the Modesto Fruit Exchange formalized this region's role as a produce hub, linking farmers to markets across the U.S. via rail and, later, trucks like yours. Today, it's a whirlwind of deals and deliveries, where independent truckers like you keep the supply chain humming. You check your manifest off, the grapes stay here, the rest go north, and nod at a market worker, a guy with a sunburned neck who's barking orders like he's running a circus. You remember Carl from the Fresno depot, his grumbling about flat tires. He'd probably hate this chaos, but you thrive on it, even if it's just for the chance to snag a fresh peach. There's a quirkier side to this place, whispered among drivers over coffee. They talk about the Modesto market cat, a scruffy tabby said to roam the stalls at dawn, picking the best crates to nap on. Legend has it the cat's a reincarnated farmer from the 1930s, keeping an eye on the valley's harvest. Workers swear is true, claiming the cat's never wrong about which loads for. Historians still argue whether it's one clever feline or a string of but you spot a tabby lounging on a stack of zucchini crates, eyeing you like you owe it a cut of your haul. You laugh, tossing it a mock salute maybe. It's got better instincts than your GPS. The market's alive with haggling, the air buzzing with voices and the clatter of crates. You help unload, stacking grape crates with a worker who has got a story about every trucker he has met. One guy tried to trade avocados for a radio, he says, shaking his head. You grin, picturing yourself bartering grapes for a new thermos or coffees, still a crime scene from Fresno. The CB crackles in your cab, a voice warning about a backup on 99 North. You make a mental note, thinking back to that foggy stretch near Monte Carglad. The mist's gone, but you're not thrilled about traffic. The market's chaos is grounding, though a reminder of why you haul. Every crate's a meal, a paycheck, a piece of the valley's pulse. You wander to a stall selling coffee, hoping for something better than the sludge you've been nursing. The vendor, a woman with a braid and a quick smile, hands you a steaming cup that smells like heaven. Better than truck stop brew, she says, winking. You take a sip, smooth, nutty, a far cry from that gas station regret. You thank her, leaving a tip, and lean against a post, watching the market hum. The grapes are offloaded now, your trailer lighter, but you feel the weight of the week miles. Fog, that eerie mist-maiden tale, still lingering. You spot the tabby again, now sprawled on a crate of apricots, and chuckle. Pick a winner. Cat, you say under your breath, imagining it judging your haul like a furry critic. The sun's climbing, warming the air, and you climb back into the cab, the vinyl seat warm under you. The market's noise fades as you fire up the engine, the familiar rumble settling your nerves. Lodi's next, but for a moment, you savor the market's energy workers, crates, the smell of fresh dirt. You think about the valley's history, how it's fed millions, from Dust Bowl migrants to today's grocery shoppers. The CB hums with a trucker joking about a melon marathon back at the market, and you laugh, the sound swallowed by the engine's drone. You adjust your cap, sip that new coffee, actually decent for once, and pull out. The market's shrinking in your mirrors as you head north, grapes still riding with you, carrying the valley's story 1 mile at a time. You're rolling along a forgotten stretch of old Highway 99, north of Modesto, the Central Valley's twilight casting long shadows across cracked asphalt. Your rig's lighter now. Half the grapes dropped at that bustling Modesto market, but the remaining crates still hum in the reefer, bound for Lodi. This road's a relic, a bypassed fragment of the original 99. Now, a quiet detour lined with sagging barns and overgrown fields. The air smells of dust and wild fennel, sneaking through your cracked window, and the fading light paints the sky in hues of lavender and gold. You're alone out here, no other headlights, just the low drone of your engine and the occasional rustle of a jackrabbit in the weeds. You sip your coffee, that decent cup from the market, still warm, and mutter, "This road's older than my bad decisions." The thought makes you chuckle, picturing Barb from the valley view nodding in agreement, her pie a distant memory. This stretch of old 99 carries, ghost of the past. Built in the 1920s, it was the valley's main artery, carrying Okie migrants west during the Dust Bowl, their jalopies loaded with hope and desperation. By the 1960s, newer highways like Interstate 5 pushed this route into obscurity, leaving it to truckers like you who know its shortcuts. The pavement's worn, patched like a quilt, and you feel every bump through the seat. You pass a rusted sign for a long-closed fruit stand, its faded letters promising cherries, 10 per pounds. You imagine pulling over back then, trading a dime for a bag of fruit, and grin at how times have changed. Your coffee costs more than that today. The CB's quiet, most drivers sticking to the main drag, but you like this road's solitude, its whispers of a valley before strip malls and there's a stranger tale tied to this stretch, one you heard at a diner near Big. Drivers call it the Ghost Convoy, a line of spectral trucks said to appear on moonless nights, their headlights flickering before they vanish. Some say it's a caravan of 1930s haulers, lost in a storm, still trying to make their drop. Others blame overworked imaginations and bad coffee. Historians still argue whether it is a tall tale or tied to a real wreck from the Great Depression, when accidents were common on these narrow roads. You glance at your mirrors, half expecting a ghostly rig to tail you. Nothing but darkness, and a stray tumbleweed bouncing like it's late for a meeting. You laugh softly, shaking your head. Maybe that Modesto market cat's got better stories than this. The road curves gently, passing a crumbling barn with a faded mural of a tractor, its paint peeling like old skin. You think about the grapes in your trailer, their journey from vine to winery, and feel a quiet pride. You're not just hauling fruit, you're carrying a piece of the valley's soul, like those Okies carried their dreams. The CB crackles faintly, a voice joking about a trucker who tried to race a tumbleweed and lost. You snort, picturing yourself challenging that weed to a dually Oryx. Got better odds. The old highway's rough, but it's faster than fighting traffic on the new 99, and you're on a tight schedule for low D. You pass a boarded-up gas station, its pumps frozen in time, and wonder who stopped here last. Maybe swapping stories like the ones on your CB, the night's deepening, stars pricking through the sky, and you adjust your cap, the vinyl seat creaking under you. The valley's history feels close here, in the quiet of this forgotten road. You remember that mist-maiden tale from the foggy stretch near Monteca. Seems like every mile in this valley it's got a ghost. You check the reference temp, still 35 degrees, perfect, and ease off the gas as the road narrows, flanked by ditches that look hungry for a tired driver. The solitude's soothing though, a break from the market's chaos or the Fresno depot's noise. You sip your coffee, savoring its last warm drops, and think about that Lodi wine, which maybe she's out here, blessing your grapes or laughing at your shortcut. The idea makes you grin. The cabs hum, swallowing the sound as you roll on, the old highway carrying you deeper into the valley's quiet past. You're rumbling along Highway 99 again, the old detour fading behind you, as the Central Valley's morning sun bathes the road in a soft, golden haze. Your rig's loaded with the last of those grapes, but today you've picked up a new whole crates of oranges, their citrus tang sharp enough to cut through the cab's lingering scent of diesel and dust. You're headed to a distribution center near the heart of the valley's citrus country, where these oranges will be sorted, shipped, maybe turned into juice or a roadside snack. The air streaming through your cracked window carries the sweet bite of orange blossoms, mingling with the earthy warmth of freshly tilled fields. You adjust your cap, take a sip of fresh coffee. Bless that Modesto market vendor and mutter, "Oranges? Huh, guess I'm hauling sunshine now." The thought makes you chuckle, imagining Barb from the valley view, serving you a slice of citrus pie with that knowing wink of hers. The Central Valley's citrus industry took root in the late 1800s, when irrigation turned this dry land into a fruit-growing powerhouse. By the 1920s, Visalia was shipping oranges nationwide, thanks to railroads and later trucks like yours, making California the top citrus producer in the U.S. You're carrying a piece of that legacy, crates stacked high with navel oranges that end up in lunchboxes or supermarkets from Seattle to Miami. The road's busy today, pickups and semis weaving past, signs for fruit stands and tractor dealers. You spot one advertising fresh oranges, $1 and grin, tempted to grab a bag to munch on later. Better than those cardboard chips from that Modesto resto. The CB hums with chatter, a trucker griping about a way station near Tulare. You nod, remembering that shortcut you took near Bakersfield saved you time. But these oranges deserve a smoother ride. There's a quirkier tale tied to this citrus country, one you overheard at a diner near Fresno. Drivers talk about the Orange Grove Phantom, a glowing orb said to float through orchards at dawn, guiding lost truckers or spooking them off the road. Some say it's the spirit of a 19th century farmer protecting his trees. Others think it's just sunlight glinting off irrigation pipes. Historians still argue whether it's a myth born from early morning haze or something tied to the valley's indigenous stories. You glance at the orchards flanking the highway, their green leaves shimmering, and half expect to see a glowing ball bobbing between the trees. Nothing but a crow perched on a fence post, eyeing you like you owe it a cut of your load. You laugh, shaking your head. Maybe that Modesto market cat's got a cousin out here. The highway stretches flat and wide, the valley's fields rolling past like an endless quilt. You pass a billboard for a citrus festival, its faded colors promising Visalia's juiciest weekend. You smirk, picturing yourself pulling up in your rig, trading oranges for a festival t-shirt. Yeah, right? Like you've got time for that. The CB crackles with a trucker joking about a driver who tried to juice his own diesel for extra mileage. You snort, nearly spilling your coffee, and mutter, "Good luck with that, buddy." The oranges in your trailer feel alive. They are sent a constant reminder of the valley's pulse. You're not just hauling fruit. You're carrying a season, a harvest, a farmer's year of work. You check the reefer's temp 38 degrees. Perfect for citrus and feel a small surge of pride, like you're keeping the valley's promise. The sun's climbing, warming the cab, and you crank the AC. The cool air, a relief after days of dust and heat. You think back to that foggy stretch near Montaka, the mist-maiden tale still lingering like a half-forgotten dream. This valley's full of stories, each mile a new chapter. You pass a small orchard workers, clipping oranges under the rising sun, their hands quick and sure. It's a grind, like yours, and you respect it. The valley doesn't sleep. Not really. The Seba hums again, a voice sharing a detour around a construction zone near Visalia. You listened, grateful for the heads-up, and adjust your route. The oranges need to arrive fresh, and you're not letting a road crew slow you down. The highway's rhythm pulls you forward, the citrus scent keeping you grounded, and you roll on, the valley's golden light guiding you toward Visalia's waiting docks. You're rolling through the Central Valley's heart near the night deep and heavy, wrapping your rig in a quiet that feels like a held breath. Your trailer's still hauling those oranges, their citrus tang a faint ghost in the cab, but the long hours are gnawing at you, fatigue settling into your bones like dust on a back. The highway's a dark ribbon, lit only by your headlights and the occasional glow of a distant farmhouse. You're headed to a distribution center in Stockton, but Mercer's lonely stretches are testing your stamina. The CB's alive with late-night chatter, truckers swapping stories to stay awake, and you lean into their voices, a lifeline against the sleepy pull of the road. You sip your coffee cold again, a bitter echo of that Modesto market brew, and mutter, "This stuff's gonna haunt me worse than that Lodi wine," which you chuckle, picturing her sipping your coffee and wincing right alongside you. Merced's been a farming hub since the 1870s, when the Southern Pacific Railroad turned it into a stop for grain and produce, linking the valley to bigger markets. That rail legacy still lingers, with trucks like yours now carrying the load, keeping supermarkets stocked from coast to coast. You pass a sign for Mayor Stitt's letters barely lit, and feel the weight of those oranges, a small piece of that history riding with you. The road's empty tonight, save for a stray pickup zipping by, its taillights fading like fireflies. The CB crackles with a voice telling a tale about a immersed midnight runner, a phantom trucker who races rigs on these roads, only to vanish at the county line. Some say he's a driver who missed a delivery in the 80s and never stopped running. Others call it sleep-deprived nonsense. Historians still argue whether it's a local legend or just headlights playing tricks in the dark. You glance at your mirrors, half expecting a ghostly semi to pull alongside. Nothing but stars and the faint outline of an orchard. You laugh softly maybe, that orange grove phantom's moonlighting as a racer. The fatigue's real now, your eyes heavy, the road blurring at the edges. You crank the AC, the cool air snapping you awake, and think back to that Modesto rest stop, its vending machine humming like a lullaby. You're tempted to pull over, but Stockton's calling, and those oranges need to be fresh. The CB hums with another story. A trucker joking about a driver who fell asleep dreaming of diner pancakes and woke up in a ditch. You snort, picturing yourself dreaming of Bob's pie from the Valley View dangerous territory. The valley's night feels endless, the stars bright but distant, and you adjust your cap, trying to shake the drowsiness. The orange scent keeps you grounded, a reminder of the job. Deliver the valley's heartbeat, no matter how tired you are. You pass a closed fruit stand, its sign promising fresh almonds, in faded paint. You imagine stopping, grabbing a bag to crunch through the night, but the schedule's tight. The CB crackles again, a voice warning about a fog patch near Livingston. You groan, remembering that soupy haze near Montecoples. Not again. The road's straight but feels like it's looping, time stretching in the dark. You think about the valley's history, how it's carried people through tough times, migrants, farmers. Now the CBS stories keep coming. A driver who swears he saw a coyote with human eyes near another griping about a flat tire. You smile, thinking of Carl from the Fresno depot, his bad luck probably trailing him still. The oranges in your trailer feel like a promise, a piece of the valley's stubborn spirit, and you check the reefer 38 degrees, still good feeling, a flicker of pride. The night's wearing on, the highways hum a sleepy drone. You spot a rest area sign but keep rolling, knowing a stop might tempt you to nap too long. The CB's your anchor. Its voice is a chorus of strangers fighting the same fatigue. One trucker jokes about a midnight coffee recipe that's half sugar, half regret. You laugh, the sound swallowed by the cab, and take another sip of your own bitter brew. The valley's quiet but alive, its fields and orchards breathing under the stars. You're tired, but you're not alone. Those CB voices, that citrus scent, the memory of Modesto's market cat there, all riding with you, keeping you steady as you roll towards Stockton, the road whispering stories only the night can hear. You're barreling towards Stockton, the Central Valley's dawn breaking over the horizon like a cracked egg, spilling gold across fields of alfalfa and walnut trees. Your rig's loaded with those oranges, their citrus scent, still clinging to the cab, a sharp contrast to the stale coffee you're sipping. Honestly, it's so bad you're half convinced it is plotting revenge from that Merced gas station. The reefer hums, keeping the load fresh, but you're racing the clock to hit Stockton's distribution yards before the morning rush turns them into a circus. Highway 99's buzzing now, more trucks and pickups weaving through the early light, and the CB is alive with chatter drivers griping about traffic or swapping diner tips. You lean into the wheel, the vinyl seat creaking, and mutter, "Almost there. Oranges, don't get cocky." You chuckle, imagining Bob from the Valley View hearing you talk to your Kagushi. Probably slip you an extra pie slice for the entertainment. Stockton's been a shipping hub since the gold rush days of the 1850s, when it served as a port for miners and farmers, funneling goods up the San Joaquin River to San Francisco. Today, its sprawling yards handle produce like your oranges, feeding markets from Sacramento to San Diego. You're headed to one of those chaotic depots, where forklifts dance and workers shout over the clatter of crates. The road's lined with signs for almond farms and truck stops, and you spot a faded billboard for a Stockton Asparagus Festival, because nothing screams party like a vegetable, right? You grin, picturing yourself pulling up in your rig, trading oranges for a festival hat. The CB crackles with a trucker joking about a driver who tried to unload his rig with a forklift and ended up in a crate pile. You snort, nearly spilling your coffee bean there. Almost done that. There's a weirder story floating around these parts, one you caught on the CB near mid. Drivers talk about the Stockton shadow hauler, a ghostly figure seen wandering the yards at dawn, checking manifests before fading into the mist. Some say it's a dispatcher from the 1940s, still obsessing over late deliveries. Others think it's just a tired worker in bad lighting. Historians still argue whether it is a legend born from long shifts or tied to a real tragedy in the old port days. You glance at the empty passenger seat. Nope, just your thermos, mocking you with its lukewarm sludge. You laugh softly, shaking your head. Maybe that mersed midnight runners moonlighting in Stockton. The yards come into view, a maze of trailers and pallets under harsh sodium lights. You ease into a loading bay, dodging a forklift that's moving like it's late for church. The air's thick with the smell of fruit and fuel, and you step out, boots hitting concrete, to check in with the yard boss, a guy with a clipboard and a scowl that says he has seen too many late trucks. You hand over your manifest, the oranges ready to be unloaded, and feel the week's weight lifting, mile by mile. You think back to that foggy stretch near the mist-maiden tail still lingering, and wonder if Stockton's got its own ghosts waiting in the wings. The CB hums with a voice warning about a backup on the exit ramp, and you're grateful you beat the rush. The yard's chaos is familiar, a louder version of Modesto's market, and you lean against your rig, watching workers swarm like ants. You grab a fresh coffee from a nearby cart. Miracle of miracles, it's actually decent, and sip it, savoring the warmth. The oranges are offloaded now, crates moving like a slow river to the sorting line. You spot a worker tossing one in the air, catching it like a ball, and grin. Hope he doesn't try that with your whole load. The valley's pulse is strong here, every crate a piece of its story, from gold rush ports to today's You think about that Modesto market cat, probably napping on a crate somewhere, and chuckle. The CB crackles again, a trucker joking about a citrus avalanche in a yard just like this. You laugh, the sound swallowed by the yard's noise, and check your watch. One last push to finish the week, but for now, you're here, oranges delivered, the valley's heartbeat thrumming under your feet as you roll toward the end of this haul. You're gliding out of Stockton's hectic yards, your rig empty now, the oranges delivered, and the trailer's reefer silent for the first time in days. The Central Valley's sunset paints the sky in soft pinks and purples, the horizon glowing like a watercolor left out in the rain. Highway 99 stretches south, guiding you back toward Fresno, where this week's journey began. The cab feels lighter, not just from the unloaded crates, but from the weight of the haul lifting off your shoulders. The air through your cracked window carries the faint scent of alfalfa and warm earth, a gentle farewell from the valley. You sip your coffee, still decent, a miracle from that Stockton carton to just your cap, muttering, "Home stretch, old girl." He chuckled, picturing your Peterbilt rolling its eyes like Barb at the valley view, probably tired of your one-sided conversations after a week on the road. The valley's been your world these past days, its fields and orchards a backdrop to a grind that's both brutal and oddly beautiful. Since the 1930s, the Central Valley Project's irrigation canals have turned this once dry land into America's salad bowl, a fact you've felt in every crate of lettuce, grapes, and oranges you've hauled. Now, as the sun dips, you're heading back to Fresno's truck stops, where you'll park, maybe grab a burger, and let the week's miles settle. The road's quieter tonight, just a few rigs and pickups sharing the asphalt, and the CB soft with chatter. Truckers winding down, swapping stories about diners or detours. One voice jokes about a driver who tried to sleep in his trailer and woke up in a peach crate. You laugh, the sound fading into the cab's hum, and think back to that Modesto market cat, probably still picking the best crates to nap on. There's a strange tale tied to these sunset drives, one you heard Nivis drivers whisper about the valley twilight wraith, a shadowy figure seen walking Highway 99's shoulder at dusk, carrying a lantern that never dims. Some say it's a lost farmer from the Dust Bowl, guiding rigs to safety. Others think it's just a mirage from heat and exhaustion. Historians still argue whether it's a myth born from long hauls or tied to old hobo trails along the highway. You glance at the roadside, half expecting a glowing light to flicker in the fading sun. Nothing but a stray tumbleweed, rolling like it's got a delivery deadline. You grin, shaking your head. Maybe that Orange Grove phantom's out there, cheering you on to Fresno. The highway's rhythm is slower now, the valley easing into night. You pass a shuttered fruit stand, its sign promising fresh strawberries, in paint so faded it's barely a whisper. You think about stopping, grabbing a bag for old time's sake, but your bunk's calling louder. The week's been a blur. Fresno's depot, that foggy stretch near Monteca, the mist-maiden tail still lingering like dust on your dashboard. The CB hums with a trucker sharing a shortcut to Fresno, and you listen, though you know these roads like your own hands. The valley's stories have carried you this far. Ghosts, cats, banshees, all part of the road's heartbeat. You check your gauges one last time, the empty trailer making your rig feel like it's floating, and lean back, the seat creaking softly. The sky is darkening, stars pricking through the twilight, and the valley feels softer, its edges blurring into a sleepy haze. You pass a billboard for a Fresno diner, its neon promising all night. You're tempted, imagining a warm plate of fries to cap the week, but rest is closer. The CB's fading now, voices growing quieter as drivers bunk down. You think about Carl from the Fresno depot, his flat tire grumbling a distant echo, and smile. The valley's been good to you, tough but fair. Its fields and ghosts, a steady companion. You adjust your cap one last time, the engines drone a gentle lullaby, and let the road guide you home. Fresno's lights glowing faintly in the distance. The world grows quieter now, the highway's hum softening, blending with the rustle of leaves outside your window. The valley's settling, its fields resting under a blanket of stars, and you feel yourself slowing too, your breaths deeper, your thoughts drifting like clouds. The week's done, your rig's work finished, and the road's given you stories to carry: grapes, oranges, a cat's knowing stare. You're almost there. Fresno's glow closer, promising a bunk, a meal, a pause. Let the valley hold you now, its stillness wrapping around you like a warm quilt. The stars are bright, the night gentle, and you're slipping into its embrace. The road fading, soft and slow, into a whisper of rest.